computer. Yay! We're back up and running. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
I know, we're glad to be back. It felt like a lot longer than it was, but it's only been a couple months. But it felt a lot longer, but I missed you guys and I'm glad to be back on our Thursday nights and we're gonna start a whole new lesson. So, what did you guys do? Anything exciting during the summer, during break? Did you go anywhere or do anything fun?
Yeah. I went to the park.
Cool. And you started high school.
Mhm.
Very cool. What about you guys, Tanaya and George?
Watching Spider-Man. Yeah, Spider-Man.
Awesome.
I don't like the green guy. I don't like him.
There's a green guy.
Green Goblin. The
Oh,
bad.
I've heard of him. Yeah. Okay. He's the villain.
Yeah, I don't like him.
Okay. Villains aren't usually very nice, that's for sure. So, okay. Well, we are gonna get started and let me see if I can bring this up if I remember how to do it.
You forgot.
I know. You know what? It's so funny because there we go. I know I have to get back in the groove. It's been a while. So, okay. So tonight we are going to actually first, who has got any prayer requests? Tanaya.
We just prayed for my mom. She was in the hospital. She had kind of sort of an infection. We prayed for my mom.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, she
Is
got
she home now?
she kind of got a kidney infection, I think.
Oh gosh, those are the worst.
Yeah.
Okay. And anyone else? Well, we will keep your mom in prayer for sure.
Yes.
Hey. Well, just keep my family in prayer. Keep Pastor and all the men in prayer. They're going up this weekend is the men's retreat.
Oh,
So make sure they're up at Cazadero, so make sure that you keep them in prayer as they go up to the mountain, as they say.
yes. I'll pray for the men. Yeah.
Awesome. And pray for all of us back here who are holding down the fort while they're gone.
Yeah.
So, all right. So today we are going to actually begin a new study. So still a little bit, we were in Abraham. We were talking about Abraham before we went on break. And so his family had lived as slaves in Egypt for 400 years. And so when God brought them out of Egypt, he turned them into a nation of people who had a good and right relationship with God, because really that's all he wants from us, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to study stories. We're going to be in the Old Testament. We're going to continue into the Old Testament. We're going to be studying from Exodus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy that
Me.
tell how God provided for the Israelites and gave them rules for living, right? And we know them as commandments.
Yeah.
He taught them to obey him. So we're going to hear today about the story about the crossing of the Red Sea. And I think you probably kind of remember some stories about how they ended up crossing the Red Sea. But it's an awesome story, really, that shows God's power, and God is very powerful. So I know we're ready to get started, and we're going to start, of course, with scripture and prayer. We've got our prayer requests out there, and our scripture today is Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. And Faith, if you want to read that for us.
For God,
Here.
for God and keep his comments.
Commands. Good. Let me move over. Kind of redid the Lord's Prayer. It's all the same wording. I just changed the picture a little bit. Praying hands in there. Tanaya, are you okay with doing the Lord's Prayer?
The prayer chant.
That's the one.
My Reverend Francis always said that.
You're absolutely right. He absolutely does say that, and that's true. That's correct. So go ahead when you're ready. Go ahead and give us our Lord's Prayer chant.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we can forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Amen. Good job. All right. So our lesson today is called Crossing the Red Sea, and we are going to be reading out of Exodus chapter 13 and 14. So the Israelites, so their first obstacle in getting to the promised land was the Red Sea and how to be able to cross the Red Sea to be able to get to the promised land. So while we're reading, listen to how they got across it. And do you ever remember hearing something about the Red Sea?
I think it's called the Dead Sea.
Well, there's two. There's the Red Sea and there's the Dead Sea. And today we're talking about the Red Sea.
No, look for
So
Exodus.
you'll probably remember as we read the Bible. So Exodus 13, verse 17, all the way through to chapter 14 and 31. So that's going to be around 37 verses. So the
Exodus.
first part, you want to read the first part or the second part, Tanaya?
Read the second part.
You want to read the second part? Okay, so I will read Exodus 13, 17 through 14 and 14, and then you can read Exodus 14, verse 15 through 31.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have Exodus 13.
Yeah, right here. Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to be starting at verse 17, and then I'll let you know. We'll go into verse 14, and then I'll let you know where you're going to start, okay?
Okay.
All right. When Pharaoh finally let the people go, God did not lead them along the main road that runs through the Philistine territory, even though that was the shortest route to the promised land. God said, if the people are faced with a battle, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led them in a roundabout way through the wilderness toward the Red Sea. Thus the Israelites left Egypt like an army ready for battle. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had made the sons of Israel swear to do this. He said, God will certainly come to help you. When he does, you must take my bones with you from this place. The Israelites left Succoth and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. The Lord went ahead of them. He guided them during the day with a pillar of cloud, and he provided light at night with a pillar of fire. This allowed them to travel by day or night, and the Lord did not remove the pillar of cloud or pillar of fire in front of the people. God's so good. He always provides for us. Then the Lord gave these instructions to Moses. Order the Israelites to turn back and camp by Pi Hatheroth between Migdol and the sea. Camp there along the shore across from Baal Zephon. Then Pharaoh will think the Israelites are confused. They are trapped in the wilderness. And once again, I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will chase after you. I have planned this in order to display my glory through Pharaoh and his whole army. After this, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelites camped there as they were told. So he's putting them through this, but it's all for God's glory. So that's always worth going through something when it's for God's glory. When word reached the king of Egypt that the Israelites had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds. See, just like God said they would. What have we done letting all those Israelite slaves get away? They asked. So Pharaoh harnessed his chariot and called up his troops. He took with him 600 of Egypt's best chariots, along with the rest of the chariots of Egypt, each with its commander. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, just like he said he would, the king of Egypt. So he chased after the people of Israel who had left with fists raised in defiance. You can just see him doing it like, we're going to get them. The Egyptians chased after them with all the forces in Pharaoh's army, all his horses and chariots, his charioteers, and his troops. The Egyptians caught up with the people of Israel as they were camped beside the shore near Pi-Hahiroth. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Across from Baal Zephon. As Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up and panicked when they saw the Egyptians overtaking them. They cried out to the Lord, and they said to Moses, "Why did you bring us here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave Egypt? Didn't we tell you this would happen while we were still in Egypt? We said, 'Leave us alone. Let us be slaves to the Egyptians. It's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness.'" My goodness, they were complaining, weren't they? But Moses told the people, "Don't be afraid. Just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm." Sometimes it's so hard to stay calm when you're panicking, huh?
Yeah.
All right, Tanaya, so you are going to start at verse 15 in Exodus chapter 14.
Right here.
Yeah, so start at verse 15 all the way to 31. Go ahead.
And the Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry to me? Tell the children of Israel to go forward,
Yep.
but lift up your rod and stretch it your hand out to the sea and divide it, and the children of Israel go shall go on dry land and through the midst of the sea. Indeed, they harm the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. So gain army, Pharaoh and his army and his horsemen,
Yes.
and the Egyptians shall know I'm the Lord. And when I gained honor myself over Pharaoh and his chariots and his horsemen, the angel of the Lord who went before the camp of Israel and moved and went behind them, a pillar of cloud went before them and stood before them. And so it came to the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Thus was a cloud of darkness to the one hand, and they gave light by night to the other, so that the one did not come near to the other that night. Then Moses stretched his hand out over the sea and go back by a strong east wind, and all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the water divided. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went into the midst of the sea. All this bit. What is that word?
Which one?
That one.
Spell it for me.
Pharaoh.
Pharaoh?
I was trying to pronounce the name.
I think it's Pharaoh.
Oh, huh. Horses and chariots, all and his horsemen. Now it came to pass in the morning, which watched the Lord had looked down on the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and he troubled the army of the Egyptians. They took out their chariot wheels and they drove them with difficulty.
Keep going.
And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee on the face of Israel." And the Lord fight
Mm-hmm.
for them against the Egyptians. And the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea so that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians, the chariots, and the horsemen." And Moses stretched his hands over the sea, and when the morning appeared, the sea returned into its full depth, while the Egyptians were put into it. So the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. Then waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, all the armies of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. Not as much as them remained, but the children of Israel walked on dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were walled to them on their right hand and on their left. So the Lord saved Israel the day out from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. That Israel saw a great work which the Lord has done in Egypt. So the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses.
Good job. So, my goodness. So, the Egyptians were pursuing Israel. And so then they heard that Israel was trying to escape to go to the promised land, right? The Israelites.
Yes,
And instead of going the easy route, God wanted them to take the route through the Red Sea. And he said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you." And they were scared because they thought, well, now we're going to die. We can't get over this thing. It's a sea, right?
yes,
But God said, "Don't you worry. This is for my glory," because he wanted those Egyptians to know that he was God, right?
right.
That the Lord is God. And so he uses these situations, sometimes even in our life, to show people that, that he's Lord and he's able. And so he did something where he told Moses to lift up that staff, right? His rod. And
Yeah.
what happened? The Red Sea parted.
Yeah.
God made that Red Sea part and they were able to go. And then when when the Egyptians came in, so the Israelites were safe, they got through. And so the Israelites the Egyptians came and tried to get to the Israelites, and God started doing what he said he was going to do. He was going to confuse them, and things started happening. I can't remember how they put it. See, the Lord looked on them and threw their forces into confusion. He twisted their chariot wheels, making their chariots difficult to drive. And they realized it was God and they said, "Let's get out of here. They have the Lord fighting for them." And they knew they were no match for God, right?
Yeah.
So they had to get out. But what happened was the sea came back in and they were all killed, which is exactly what God said was going to happen. But before that happened, boy, they acknowledged that God is God, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah, so the parting of the Red Sea was kind of what I was getting at before, that it's, a very well-known story in the Bible about Moses and the parting of the Red Sea. So that was kind of the story behind that. But yeah, so hold on. Let me notes here. So yeah, so the Israelites, they saw God's power. Even though they were complaining, and Moses knew that God was going to make it happen, he didn't know how. We never know how God's going to do it, but God always does it. And so the Israelites not only saw God's power, but they believed in God. They thought God was awesome. They respected and obeyed God, even if they were scared, they still did it, and they depended on God, right?
Yeah.
But the Bible uses one word usually when you have that, when you believe in God and you depend on God and you obey him, that's all fearing the Lord. And so when we hear that word fear, we think of something scary, something that makes us feel unsafe. But when we're talking about fearing the Lord, we're not talking about an unsafe, bad fear. How we fear the Lord is respecting him, obeying him, knowing his Lord, knowing that he is in control of everything, worshiping him, praying. That's another way to fear the Lord, is serving and worshiping the Lord. So when you hear fear the Lord, it's not a bad fear. There's things that we fear that are bad, but like you were talking about earlier, Tanaya, it's a movie, of course, but people in the movie feared that villain, right? Because they thought that villain was going to hurt them.
The Green Goblin, you mean?
The Green Goblin, thank you. Yes. And
Yeah.
so, but when we're, so that's a different kind of fear. That's not a good fear. There's
No.
there's good fear and there's bad fear. And so the fear of the Lord is never a bad fear. That's always a very safe, good fear. And it means something different when you're talking about that kind of fear. So to fear God is to not be afraid of him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And to fear God is to worship, respect, trust, obey, and remain loyal to him. That's
Yeah.
what fearing the Lord means, right? And
Right.
so he showed his great power not only to the Israelites, but to the Egyptians, but only the Israelites feared God, feared him in the right way, right? They believed. And so we can show that fear for God today by worshiping and paying attention during church service or Bible study, all of that. And that's, we've talked about that stuff before in different ways that we can show that we fear the Lord, that we trust the Lord, that we worship the Lord. So all of that is kind of how we do that. So that fear of the Lord. So the Israelites were showing their fear by trusting, right? And knowing that God was going to help them. The Egyptians had a different fear. So, but they ended up, every knee shall bow and every tongue will confess that this is Lord.
That's right.
So here is that one that Faith, you usually would read this before.
It's different.
It does look different. I typed it out because the copying out of the book thing. So I do have, you're used to it looking like this. If you can see it, but you're used to
Yeah.
it looking like that. Yeah. So it's the same one. I just typed it out. So it looks a little bit different, but this is the part that you usually read. And Tanaya, the story that you usually read, it looks a little different too, but it's right out of the book. The
Okay.
part just wasn't working. It didn't look very good when I tried to scan it, so I just typed it out. Is this big enough?
Yeah. God sent
Moses,
Moses to
Pharaoh,
Pharaoh. Let God's people go worship him miles.
Moses,
Moses said, no way. Pharaoh answered,
good,
so God sent awful
good. Plagues,
plagues to show his power. Finally, after every firstborn son in
Egypt,
Egypt died, Pharaoh said, go get out of
Egypt,
Egypt. God, worship your God. Take all your people, take all, eat, take all your animals, take everything you own, just go away. So the
Israelites,
Israelites quickly
gathered,
gathered their things. They left Egypt. God
led,
led the
Israelites,
Israelites. By day, they followed a
pillar,
pillar of cloud. By night, they followed a pillar of fire. They went along the
wilderness,
wilderness road to the Red Sea, and there they
camped.
camped. Then
Pharaoh
Pharaoh
changed
changed his mind. He went after the Israelites.
Israel. Good.
He gathered
Hundreds
hundreds of
soldiers.
soldiers. They used the king's best horses and
Chariots.
chariots. They caught up with the Israelites at the Red Sea. The Israelites were
Afraid.
afraid. They cried to God for help. Millions.
Moses
Moses told them, "Do not be afraid. God will
fight.
fight for you. After today, you will never see the
Egyptians.
Egyptians again." God told Miles,
Yes.
Moses, "Get the people ready to move.
Raise.
Raise your walking stick and hold it
Let me bring this up a little bit. And hold it right here.
over the sea. The water will
Divide.
dissolve.
Divide.
The people will walk across on dry ground." Then God moved the pillar of cloud and fire between the Israelites and the
Egyptians.
Egyptians and keep the Egyptians away from the
Israelites.
Israelites all night long. Moses
Stretched.
stretched his walking stick over the sea. God sent a
Strong.
strong wind that below the
Blue.
water blew the water apart. A wall of water
Stood.
stood on each side of a dry
Path.
patch through the sea. The Israelites began to walk across to the other side. The Israelites got
Safely.
safely to the other side of the
The Egyptians.
Egyptians started to follow them. God told
Moses.
Moses,
Stretch.
stretch your walking stick over the sea again. The water will
Drown.
drown all the
Egyptians.
Egyptians.
Moses.
Moses obeyed all the Egyptians.
Soldiers.
Soldiers died. The
Israelites.
Israelites saw God great power. They full
Feared.
feared him and believed in him.
Good job. Awesome reading. So yeah, could you imagine that? So you're trying to escape these Egyptians, and God says, "Don't worry, I'll make a way for you." And he parts the Red Sea and makes it dry land so you get over there and you're safe. And then when the Egyptians come, he said, "Moses, put that stick out there again." And he stretched the stick out there, and God made all that water come back, and it ended up drowning the Egyptian soldiers who were trying to kill the Israelites, right?
Yeah.
So God saved them because the Israelites, they believed in God. They feared him, they followed him, but the Egyptians did not. So that's that. Now we have George's part. I hope you can read this kind of writing, George. Read our directions here.
Hmm. Did
Mm-hmm.
the
Israelites.
Israelites or
Mom, I was there.
uh,
Egyptian
Egyptian
soldiers.
soldier.
So each answer to this question is either the Israelites or the Egyptian soldiers. So we want to know who did it. So the first one is, let me see if I can get my little draw thing here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So who saw God's power?
Israelites.
Very good. Who believed in God?
Israelites.
Israelites.
Yep. Who thought God was awesome?
Israelites.
Yep,
Israelites.
that's right. Who respected God?
Israelites.
Who obeyed God?
Israelites.
Who depended on God?
Israelite.
Again,
Yeah. Hey, I didn't write the questions, the book did. Yep. Uh, who did not obey God?
Egyptian soldier.
That's right. Who did not respect God?
Egyptian soldiers.
Who did not think God was awesome?
Egyptian
Who
soldiers.
did not believe in God?
Egyptians.
Who did not see God's power?
Egyptians.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, they did in the end, but they were dead. So, all right. So, the story today is Amy Shows Respect. So, Tanaya, this is the story you usually read. And like I said, it looks different, but it's exactly out of the book. I didn't change anything, it just looks different. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay.
I like the way that this dress fits me. Amy said she looked in the mirror and smoothed out her skirt.
Huh?
Amy's friend did not like it. Your clothes look too old fashioned, she said. How? Asked Amy. Amy's skirts came to her knees.
Huh?
She did not wear low blouses.
Huh?
You do not show enough of your body, said Amy's friend. People today might see skin. I do not want to show much skin, said Amy. Dress this way.
Hang on, let me bring it up. Okay. You're in the right place.
Huh?
You're right. I just had to bring it up. I dress this way.
This way to show respect, God. He does not want to tease men with the way I dress. Amy's friend answered, that is no fun. I have a lot of fun, Amy replied, what? But I am careful where I go and what I do. I want to honor and obey God, and everything I do, like the way I dress and live.
Good. So, should we ever criticize somebody for what they're wearing?
No.
No. And God says, come as you are. And, you know, yes, there's certain ways to dress in certain places. Sometimes when you go somewhere, you have to kind of dress up. And when you're at home, you can kind of dress how you want. And if you go to the store, you dress another way. But it's never okay to criticize or insult somebody for the way that they're dressing, whether they're, you think they don't have enough clothes on, or if you think that they have too many clothes on. No, I mean, what matters the most is what kind of person they are. And if they're someone, you know, that walked into church and they're homeless and they have maybe, let's say, dirty clothes on, there are holes and they can't afford to get clothes, like that, it's not okay to make them feel bad about that, right?
Right.
Because you could have somebody that's dressed really nice, but they're not a good person. So it really doesn't matter what they're wearing. They don't treat people well, and that God is not concerned with what we're wearing. He's concerned with how we're treating people, loving them, right? And treating
Yeah.
with respect. Because if you're not respecting God's people, you're not respecting God. So yes, there is a way, to dress in church, but not everybody's going to do that. But they're there to worship God, and that's what should matter.
Here.
So I just kind of think that, that's my opinion. All right. So this says, show your fear. And remember, we talked about how we fear God, and it's not a bad kind of fear, right?
Right.
So, Tanaya, what does this first one say? The pink one.
I will depend on God.
Right. And George, what does this green one say?
Will to be praised of God.
Respect for God. Good job. Faith, what does the orange one say?
I will obey God.
Good. And the yellow one says, I will worship God. And Tanaya, what does this purple one say?
I will be loyal to God.
Good. And then, George, what else? I left this one blank so that we
Why?
can think of another way to show fear for God. I will what?
For God.
Love God? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what he said.
That's a good one. Faith?
I will listen to God.
Good. I like that one. Absolutely. Tanaya,
Huh?
can you think of one? Another way to fear God, to show him?
I pray for God.
Very good. I will pray. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I will
Pray for God.
treat God's people with respect. I
Yeah.
will respect. I will obey God's commands. That's hard to do sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can't, oh, I know. And it says if you can't keep one commandment, you can't keep any of them. And so, we do. And this is why we need Jesus, because we're not perfect. Only God is perfect. So we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to forget sometimes who we are. And even the Israelites, they started getting upset with Moses and saying, why did you bring us here? And you should have just left us in Egypt, and we could have just stayed slaves. And because they were scared, right?
Yeah.
And so he was like, don't worry. Moses reminded them, the Lord will take care of you. Just trust him. And of course, the Lord did. And so even though we're believers and even though we follow Jesus, we still get scared and we still act just like the Israelites did before God parted the Red Sea. We all do it. And, but the difference is that it doesn't mean we don't believe in God. We still believe in God. We just have to repent and say, sorry, God, I just lost my mind there for a minute. And he forgives us. So that's that. So that was our first lesson back. I will fear the Lord. So that's one thing that they all definitely end up doing. In one way or another, we will fear the Lord, right?
Yeah.
So, name one thing you learned or remembered from our lesson tonight. We'll start with George.
Yes.
What about God? What did he do in our story tonight? What did he do?
For sin.
Huh?
For sin.
What did he say, Tanaya?
For sin.
Oh, forgave us our sin. Okay, but what about in our story? What did God do? What do you remember God doing? What did he do to the Red Sea?
Hmm.
Huh.
I-
It's okay. Do you remember, George?
And pray.
Well, I'm sure they did pray. They were probably pretty scared with all those Egyptians chasing them. But how did God help them to escape through the sea? He told Moses to put his staff over it. And then what did that wind do? Did it separate the water? Did he part the Red Sea so he could help them get to escape?
Yeah.
He did. God parted the Red Sea, absolutely. And he used Moses to put that staff up there. And Tanaya, what did you learn or remember from tonight?
Fell hard in his heart.
Yes. God had Pharaoh harden his heart, right? No, because he wanted them to go after the Israelites so that he could show them who God it really is. And Faith, what about you?
Walking stick.
The walking stick, that's right. And that's what he had Moses do. He had Moses lift that walking stick over, and everybody saw that happen. But they all knew it wasn't Moses that did it, right? They knew it was God. And so those Egyptians were like, uh-oh, they've got God on their side. God's fighting for them. We're no match for God. We better get out of here. And God said, oh, no, you don't. Here comes that water.
Oh,
So, yeah, so that's what happened. So awesome job tonight, you guys. That was a good lesson to start back up with. And who wants to close us out in prayer tonight? Tanaya, all right, go for it.
please, God, help my mom get better for her infections, and amen.
Amen. We will definitely put Mom on the prayer list.
Her name is Celia Rucker.
Yes, thank you. I will make sure she's on the prayer list. And
Yeah.
tomorrow night, there's not going to be a Bible study because the men are going up to the retreat. And Saturday night, there's not going to be prayer hour because they will still be up at the retreat.
The
But we'll
mountain.
have Sunday, we'll have church service on Sunday.
Okay. Next Thursday Bible study at 5:30 again.
Absolutely. Good to be back, huh?
Yeah.
All right, you guys, have a good night. Excellent job tonight. Have a good weekend.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.